I thought I would give you an update on the temperature blanket that we are working on this year. This here is the pattern. And this is my key that I have made so I know what temperature. So it's the highest temperature of the day here in Maine. I am using a Malabrigo Rios, and I added a color for 20 or below, just given our climate. So this here is the blanket so far, a few weeks into January. You can see here, this line indicates where I've twisted my stitch so that it will lock in place. I also have that on this side as well. And this is the beginning of the round. So for the first several days, it was the same temperature. And this is I did a smaller knit 2, purl 2 in the beginning as my border. And so you can see here, this is where I've added colors. I've opted to carry it in the round when the temperature wasn't going to change very often. And you don't have to worry about these being in your way because you're going to cut them anyway. So I also made a mini version to show you, which I would really recommend everybody does this, just to give you an idea of the concept. So I have one here that is bound off and a second one that I'm going to cut for you. So you're making the circle, a tube, and again, these are all of the ends that I didn't worry too much about, and this is what I'm going to cut and unravel. So this here is your beginning, and this is where I've cast off. So these are my ends, and this is what I'm going to cut. Obviously yours would be much bigger than that. So you can, I would suggest putting cardboard or something underneath it. And then by cutting this here, once you have your whole tube, having something between it would be good. But this here, you can just cut these strands here. And then you can see on this one here, this is where my twisted stitch is here. So I'm gonna unravel. So it might take you a minute to start unraveling it all. And I will also link the Pattern Designer has a video on this as well, on the actual unraveling of all of the stitches. So you just keep going. And then this top stitch, so we're going back to here. This is where the twisted stitch is. You can kind of see it looks a little bit different here. So we're just gonna unravel back to that. And this one you have to pull back a little bit on the top. And you'll see that it stops it here for my twisted stitch. And then up top, you're gonna undo. And then this stitch here, you're gonna wanna pull through when you get to that twisted stitch, which is right here. You can see the twisted stitches here. And then you will pull through this stitch, just like it was your last stitch, to lock it in place. So make sure that you do that. She does make note of that in the pattern. She does say in the pattern here, when you're doing your, you secure loose ends from cast on, and that's what she means. Here's your cast on and your cast off edging. So once you do that, everything will be locked in place. So this one you can tell here, we're just unraveling, and then it won't go anywhere from here. So that one's stopped. This one is stopped here. You can see that's not going anywhere. This one here. So it'll take you a few minutes to unravel it, but you can tell the beginning of your round is secure, and this one on the top, you have to pull through as if it were your last stitch on a cast off. So here are all of my fringe here, which you can just trim. And then on the other side, you're gonna do the same thing and unravel back. And you're gonna go back to, you can see here, this is my twisted stitch. So pull back. Could use a crochet hook too to grab this top and unravel. And then continue. So this one here, just gonna take apart because this is our top row. And then here is our twisted stitch here. So we'll continue to pull back. So you want to make sure that you've secured. You'll have this too at the beginning from your cast on, well, depending on how you cast on. And then here is my fringe on this side. I'm going to go back one more so you can see that twisted stitch right here. So you can see that it's locked in place. Here's that twisted stitch right here. So I'm locked in place. I've got one more row to do. And then you are all set. And then you just trim them. So you can tell that this is this twisted stitch, which is the magic. You have to make sure you do that twisted stitch. You can identify it by a stitch marker on both sides if that's easier, but it's pretty well defined. If you really look at the difference, when I kind of stretch this out, you can see this stitch is a lot more narrow. And then these are just your basic V knit stitch. We hope that you show us pictures of your progress. I'm working on a very simple baby blanket design I'm calling Basket and Waves and Eco Cotton by Ella Rae. I made some good progress on my temperature blanket. I'm going to add the few last days in April. And as you can see, we did have one day in the pink, the almond blossom, that was 70 in the month of April. This is all Rios. This is Trek by Tin Can Knits, and it's the Shetland fingering from Harrisville. And I'm knitting in a pretty great spot here in Maine. So once you get started, you just keep pulling and then it stops at your stitch here. So you're going to keep working this and then you'll give it a nice trim at the end, but you just keep pulling. It takes a little bit of time, but you just keep pulling all these and then you'll have fringe that'll go all the way down both sides. So that's what I'm working on now, is making all the fringe.